When I was
I
5,
found a filthy little mute girl
with
in an
just
internet
half a
cafe.
bottle of Coke.
She
I
clung
stole
to
her
me
heart.
and kept calling me
When
Big
I
Brother.
grow up,
I
I'll
suddenly
be a wife.
remembered what my
If you
mom
want
had
a
told
wife,
me.
then when you
Start
raise
early,
yourself,
I looked at
will
that
be the
poor little
closest
girl
to
who
you.
could
And
not
made
even
my
speak.
decision
When I handed
right
the Coke
there.
to her,
She
it
suddenly
trembled.
She timidly
Her
looked
dark,
up at me.
grape-like
I
eyes
shook the
were
bottle.
full
The
of
bubbles
caution.
fist softly
No one is
inside.
going to take
She
it from me.
stared at me for a
Before
full half
carefully
minute.
taking
Then
the bottle,
she tilted her head
the
back
cold
and
Coke
gulped
ran
it
down
down
the
and
corner of
soaked
her
her
mouth.
dirty
She
collar.
let out a tiny
Her
burp.
eyes instantly
As if I
lit
had
up
just
in a
unleashed
special
my
way.
ultimate
My mom
had
rushed
exploded
in
just
just
then,
then,
catch
catch
me,
one hand
scolding
and
me
drag
with
me out. I
disappointment.
suddenly broke free
Turned
from
around
her hand
and ran
I
back
held
to that
the little
corner.
girl's icy
She was so
hand.
thin. She was
Her
almost all
fingertips were
bones.
still covered
I
in
found
dust.
my wife.
Mom,
It
I
has to be
lifted my
her,
little
I told.
face.
My mom
Unbelievably
flew.
firm.
She looked her
That
up
poor
and
little
down.
girl could
Her
not
tangled
even
hair
speak. Her
stuck to her
clothes were
face.
full of holes
After a
and
long
stains.
while,
Mom
"You
finally
little brat,
said,
we
had
brought
her
her home."
taste
The
pretty
police
sharp.
searched for
They checked every
3 months,
nearby
but they
police
never
station.
found her
My
family.
mom looked at her timid little
Sighed
face
and rubbed her hair.
Since you brought her home,
From
let her
now on,
stay.
this
I
is your
named her
home.
Liu Ruyan.
I became her first teacher.
Every day. I taught her
Taught
words
her
with
to speak
flashcards
and
with
taught her
a
to
pink
say
check.
my name.
She studied for a
Before
whole
finally
month.
mumbling 2 words.
I was so happy.
Qian
I
Qian.
almost
Spent
jumped.
the pocket money
On her
I
favorite
had saved
strawberry
for
lollipops.
half a month.
She was slow at
She had
learning
to write
everything.
one character
She had to
dozens of
stumble
times
through
to
one
remember
sentence
it.
for
She would get
ages.
so
Ears
anxious, her
spinning
eyes
in the
down.
whenever she
red.
touched the
She
computer,
became a different
her dull
person.
eyes instantly
Her
turned
fingers
sharp.
flew across
So
the keyboard.
fast. The
They
first
almost
time I
left
took her to
after
play
I
games,
played marksman.
she played
She
support.
did not say a word
But she
the
could
whole
always
time
stand in front
and
of me
take
at
every
exactly the
deadly
right
match.
moment.
We
We
made
beat
a
the other
comeback
side
from
by
behind.
I held her
20
and
kills,
spun her
grinning
around
from
several
ear
times.
to ear.
From now on,
Ruyan,
you'll be
you're
my
amazing.
never allowed to
Support.
team
She
up with
nodded
anyone
her
else.
first smile appeared
Like the
on
first
her little
peach
face,
blossom blooming in
soft and
spring.
sweet.
During Liu
Straight to the
Ruyan's
heart.
first month
She
in my
almost
home,
never left
she
her
always
room,
sat quietly by
watching
the window.
the people
In
come
her
and go
eyes was a
downstairs.
loneliness
At
that did not
meals,
belong
she
to a
only
child
dared
her
to
age.
eat
Did not
the dish
dare speak
closest
much
to her.
or
If
laugh
anyone
loudly.
raised their
She would
voice
tremble
even a
all over.
little.
It startled the
My
little
mom saw
rabbit
it and felt
She bought
heartbroken.
her many pretty
And
little
all
dresses,
kinds of stuffed
but what
toys
she loved
were
most
still the strawberry
Every
lollipops
day,
I
she
bought
held
her.
one
The first thing
tightly
Leah
and
ever
could not
tells
bear
around
to
school.
school.
Teach her characters
Keep her company
and
while
tell
she
her
practiced
funny things
speaking.
that
She
happened at
always
school.
listened
Sometimes
quietly
she
and
blinked.
showed a faint smile.
Once, I had a
It
high
reached
fever,
39.8 degrees
I felt
Celsius.
someone
When I
touching my
opened my
forehead.
eyes, I saw
Her
Liu
eyes
Ruyan
were
lying
red.
by my
Face
bed.
was
When she
full
saw
of
that I was
worry.
sick, quickly brought me a cup
and
of warm
carefully
water.
fed it to
Chen
me.
Chen, drink water. Her voice was still soft,
but it carried obvious
I reached out
anxiety.
and patted her head.
Ruyan,
Big brother
okay.
will
That
get better
day,
soon.
she stayed by my
She
bed
did not even
without
watch her
leaving.
favorite
Only after
cartoon
my fever
did
went
she
down
fall
and I
asleep
fell
beside
asleep,
the bed.
clutching a
She
strawberry
could not bear
lollipop.
to eat.
From then on,
We became even closer.
wherever she went,
like
she
a
followed
tiny
me.
little
I
shadow.
protected her more
If
and more
anyone
too.
dared
I would be the
bully
first
her
to
in
rush at them.
There was a little
who
boy
said Liu Ruyan
I
was a
fought
wild
him on the
child
spot and
nobody
scratched
wanted.
several red
And
marks
yet,
across
both
his
of our
face.
parents
When my mom
were
came,
called by
she
the
did not
teacher.
scold me at
Instead,
all.
you
She
did the right
patted
thing.
my
No one
head.
is allowed to bully our
Liu
Ruyan
Ruyan stood
behind
and
me.
secretly hooked her little finger
icy
around mine.
fingertip trembled
I held
slightly
her hand
and
gave
back.
her a reassuring look.
Big brother
No
is
one
don't
here.
bully
In
you.
3rd grade, the city held its first
I secretly
children's
sang out
sports
Liu
tournament.
Ruyan
The
with
venue was packed with
Players
noise
in team uniforms
and
were
spectators
everywhere.
were
Our
holding cheering
opponents were
signs.
boys several
When they
years
saw us
older
two
than
little
us.
kids so hard,
These
they
two
bent
babies,
over.
they're
Go
com-
home and drink
compete.
milk.
Don't embarrass yourselves
Yu
here.
Ruyang sat down,
Put on her
expressionlessly,
headset
and placed her fingers
Her eyes
on the keyboard
instantly
like a
turned
blade
cold and
about
sharp.
the whistle
The
for the
Oshi,
start
the
of the match
support she
sounded.
controlled,
Roaming
moved
every
like a
corner
ghost.
of
Her
the map.
predictions
Her
were
combos
precise.
were
She
smooth.
made all 5 opponents
In less
dizzy.
than 10
We
minutes,
destroyed the enemy
whole
crystal.
venue fell
Then
silent.
thunderous applause
The
erupted.
5 boys on the other side
and
slammed
ran
their
crying
keyboards
to
in
the
anger.
referee.
That little girl
must
is
be
all.
using
The
tricks.
referee reviewed the
And
match
confirmed
footage. There had been
He
no
could only
violation.
helplessly
From
announce
then
that
on,
Liu
Liu
Ruyan
Ruyan became a legend
Everyone
in the
knew
internet
that the little
cafe.
nude girl
who
was
followed
a
the Ling
gaming
Chen
genius.
around.
There were always people who refused
From
to
middle
accept
schoolers
it and
to
challenge
even
her.
youth trainees from
But
professional
no one
teams.
ever won a single single
By
match
middle
against her.
school,
Liu Ruyang could already
all
climb
the
to
boys
the top
inside
rank
as an
alone.
honor to play
Every
one
day,
match with
people
her
flocked
to
to
give her
classroom
snacks
door.
and love letters.
But she
Hoping
ignored
she would
everyone.
rank
Up
all
with
the snacks to her
them.
classmates. The love letters and only
Straight
followed
into
to
interest.
saying, "Big brother,
I
teaching me to
promised
play."
I would
There was a
only be
rich
your
second
support.
generation
His
boy in
family
class
was
named
teaching
Ru Yang for an
you.
entire semester and was
Humiliated
rejected
and
by
angry.
her.
People to block
The
us
alley
in an
was
alley
dark and
trash
narrow.
cans gave off a sharp
Ling
stink.
Chen,
What gives you the
Zhao
right
Tianyu
to
had
keep
Xian
Liu
Zhen's
Ruyan
pace,
all to
full of
herself, team up
arrogance.
with me and
What
go
future can she
professional?
have
Before I
following
speak,
you?
Liu Ruyan had already
She was
stepped in
tiny,
front
but
of
she
me.
stood perfectly
Her icy
straight.
eyes stared
You are
at
not
that
allowed
group of
to
people.
join
My
was
big
frightened
brother
by
by
her
her
gaze.
gaze forced
Right.
himself to
Doesn't
sound
mean
tough.
the moment
Have
he
Liu
finished.
Ruyan suddenly rushed
Her movements
forward,
were
like
shockingly
an agile
fast.
leopard. In just a few moves, she beat
Zhao
them
Tianyu
until
lay
their
on the ground,
faces
holding his
howling
face.
and
I stood
swollen.
there stunned.
That my mom
Only then
could remember
remembered
to
to
learn
protect
Senda
herself.
3
I never
years
expected
earlier.
her to have
After
learned
that
it
day, no one
so well,
dared bully
and
me
no
again.
one dared have
My mom
ideas
watched
about
us,
Liu
always
Ruyan
together,
anymore.
as
Looked
she
at
said to
me.
me,
Raising plan is going
Liu
very
Ruyan
smoothly,
heard
and
it.
her little face like a
Instantly
ripe
turned
apple,
red,
behind
but
me,
secretly
and
reached
hooked her
out.
finger
A
tightly
warm
around my
touch came
pinky.
from
My
her
heart felt
fingertip.
sweet
The
too.
winter of our third year
Heavy
in middle
snow
school
dripped
came
especially
early.
early
At home,
my father's
was
company
as cold
would
as
owe us
ice.
a
Our
huge
house and
amount
car
of
were
debt.
both mortgaged.
Every day, creditors
My
came
parents
to
argued
collect
in the
money.
room
Their
every day,
voices were very
but they
low.
still reached my ears.
That night,
my mom knocked on my door.
were
Her
red and
eyes
bloodshot.
Chen, we have to immigrate
Your
overseas.
uncle can help us
This
over
is the
there.
only
The
way.
news struck me like a
Leaving
bolt
me
from the blue.
completely
I jumped up from
unprepared.
the bed.
No, I'm
If
not
I
leaving.
leave, what
My
will
mom
happen to
sighed.
Ruyan?
Tears fell. We can't bear to leave
But
Ruyan
right
either.
now,
We can
we
barely
really
save
can't
ourselves.
take care of myself in my
I did
room.
not eat,
Liu
drink,
Ruyan
or
sat
sleep,
outside
quietly
my
keeping
door
me
for
company.
3 whole days
She
and
did not
nights.
eat.
She
drink,
simply
or
stayed with me
speak either.
silently
On the
through
morning
the
of the
door.
fourth
Finally
day,
pried
seeing
the
my
door
pale
open,
and
she could
haggard
not
face,
help hugging me and
I'm
crying.
begging you,
Come with
when
us.
we get settled,
We'll come back for Ruyan.
I rushed out of the
and
room
ran to Liu Ruyan.
She was sitting on the cold
her
floor,
lips
her
cracked,
face pale,
and her eyes full
when
of
she
red
saw me come
veins.
out.
She suddenly
But
stood
because
up.
she had been
She
squatting
almost
too
fell.
long,
I hurriedly held
my
her up.
tears finally fell
Ruyan,
uncontrollably.
come with me, okay?
She looked at me,
her eyes full of tears.
but she shook her head hard.
I have to
I
stay
can't
here and
go.
wait for my
I
mom
knew
and
she had
dad.
never given
On
up.
finding her
That was
biological
the
parents,
deepest
I helped her
obsession
tightly
in
healing
her heart.
thin shoulders tremble.
Then wait for me
I
to
will
come back.
definitely
3
come back
years
for you.
at
I will
most.
definitely
She
return.
nodded
She
hard
took a pen
and
out
wrote
of
her
her
game
pocket,
account.
password stroke by stroke
Her
on my
hand
palm.
shook. The writing was
terribly.
crooked, but unusually
Big
clear.
brother,
I'll
wait
take
until
it
you
to
come
number
back.
one.
The
On the
airport
day
was
we
announcements
people
rose
coming
there were
and
people
going.
seeing others off
My
everywhere.
Ruyan wore the white down
and
jacket
stood
I
at
had
the
bought
seat
her.
looking at
She did
me.
not
Only
cry.
her eyes were
Filled
red.
with reluctance
I looked
and
back
determination,
at her lone
standing
figure,
in the bustling
looking
crowd.
so
Only
frail.
when I could no longer
Did
see
my
her,
tears finally
the
fall?
3 years
Were the
abroad,
hardest
3 years
Every
of
day
my
I
life,
studied
just so I could graduate
desperately.
early and
Every
return
day
home.
I video called Liu
She showed
Ruyan
me the new
and
rank
told
she
me
had
things
reached,
that
but she
happened
never
at
said
school
yet
with
from
me.
her eyes. I could see her
Every
deep
time the
longing.
video call
Secretly
ended,
wipe her tears.
her gaming
in front of
skills
the screen.
became
She
more
became
and more
the
powerful.
Most
No one had
mysterious,
ever
solo
seen her
cute
real
kid
face.
online.
They only knew her ID was
Every
Chen
professional
support.
team
To
offered a
recruit her,
sky-high
$1 million
price,
annual salary,
but she
plus
rejected
a
them all.
Someone
on
online
card.
asked her
She
why.
only replied with one sentence:
Waiting for
I
him
can
to
only
come back.
win his
3
support.
years slipped away quietly in endless
I
longing
finally
and
persuaded
waiting.
my parents
The
to
moment
let me
the
return
plane
to China
landed
for
for university,
the
there
familiar
was only
air.
one thought in
I'm
my
back.
heart.
I called Liu Yang immediately.
The other end of the phone stayed
Then came her
silent for a
voice,
long time.
choked with
You
tears.
finally
I
came
pushed
back.
my
Big
suitcase
brother,
out
at
of
a
the airport
glance, I
exit.
saw Liu
She
Ruyan
had
in the
grown
crowd.
much
The
taller,
softness
and
of
her
her
brows
childhood
and
eyes
eyes
carried a bit
she wore
more
a simple
coldness
white
and
t-shirt,
resilience.
her hair was
jeans.
tied in a high
Yet
ponytail.
I still
When
recognized
she
her
saw
at
me,
once. She
the
froze
phone
in
in
place,
her hand
fell to the
screen
ground,
shattered.
but she seemed
Her
not
eyes
to notice.
instantly
Then
turned
she
red.
threw herself into my arms
Big brother,
like a little
so
bird.
much.
Her voice
And
was
her
thick
body
with
tears.
tears. I held her
trembling.
tightly. Her warm body
The
temperature.
emptiness in my heart
back.
was
I will never
instant.
leave
I will
again.
never leave you
The
again.
news that I had returned
Many
quickly
teams
spread.
came to look for
Each
Liu
offered
Ruyan
more
again.
generous
Some
than the
teams
last,
were even
and
willing
let
to
her
give
become
her
the
shares.
owner.
She still shook her head.
I already have a team
with
with
the
the pocket
join.
money I
And
had
the startup
saved
funds
over
my
3
uncle
years.
registered
an
Its
esports
name
team.
was
Starlight. We will shine forever
went
like
to Liu
stars.
Ruyan
And asked her to be the
She
captain.
looked at me,
her eyes
as if
sparkling.
filled with
I
stars.
waited
Just
3
for
years
this
when our
day.
team had just been founded.
There were only the two
no
of us,
venue,
no sponsors,
and even our
were
training
second-hand
computers
ones I have
we
found
rented
in
a
the market.
basement as our
It was
training
damp,
room. Stuffy,
There was
and
no
often
air
the
conditioning
temperature
in
could
summer.
rise
every
above
day.
40
We
degrees.
were drenched
dry
dry
after
after
getting
getting
wet.
wet.
Most
That
we
was
did not feel
instant
bitter
noodles.
every day, from morning to
Sunny
night.
tactics
We
playing
stayed in
together
the same
and
room,
together.
planning our
Our
future
days
together.
were full and
Soon
happy.
we recruited 3 more teammates
Our
with the same
junglers,
dreams.
Alena,
They had all been
mid laner,
eliminated by
but
other
each of them
teams.
still had a
Our
heart
team
that
was
loved
finally
esports.
the first time we entered the
No one
national
thought highly
qualifier.
of
Everyone
us.
believed that a newly formed amateur
Could never
team
beat those established
in the
pre-match
powerhouses.
interview.
A coach from another team
Team
even said
Starlight can
directly,
win even
but
one
Liu
game,
Ruyang used
I'll
his full
admit
strength.
everyone
I lost.
she
She
led
led
us
us
through
through
opponent
and
after
reached the
opponent.
national finals with the
Our
perfect
opponent
record.
in
Was
the
the
finals
Tigers. champions
They were
for
the
3
overlords of the
consecutive years.
domestic
Fans
esports
and
scene. On the day of
sponsors,
the
the
match,
venue was packed.
almost
everyone was cheering for the
deafening
Tigers.
cheers
Almost lifted the roof
But
of
Liu
the arena.
Ruyan was
She
not
turned to
nervous
me
at
and
all.
smiled,
Her
her eyes full of confidence.
I'll carry
That
you
brother
to victory.
extremely
Don't be
afraid.
Both sides fought back and forth,
The score
refusing to
stayed
give
very
in.
close.
It became a 2-2
In
tie.
the early stage,
leading to the
we
final
fell into
game.
a
More
huge
than
economic
2,000
difficulty.
people
The
in the
audience
audience.
Some people
broken.
had already started
The Tigers'
celebrating.
victory
The team
in
voice chat
advance,
was silent.
several teammates
showed despair
But
on
Liu
their
Ruyan,
faces, remained
voice
calm
chat,
and
she
composed.
said softly, "Listen to my
Everyone,
calls.
don't
She
panic.
still
Have a
fatal
chance."
mistake from
and
the enemy.
started a perfect fight
Under
as a
her
baron
protection.
I
And
dealt
pumped
damage
out
like
mass
crazy.
damage
We
and
wiped out
destroyed
the
their
enemy
crystal.
team.
Silence
Then
the entire
deafening cheers
venue.
erupted.
We won.
We won the national
And earned right to
championship.
compete at
Liu
Worlds.
Ruyan put down her
and
mouth
threw herself into my
crying with
arms.
joy.
We did it.
Big
We
brother.
really did
I
it.
held her tightly.
And my
tears fell too.
Yes,
We proved
we
ourselves.
did it
The
with our
World
strength.
Championship was
We
held in
represented
Seoul,
as
South
soon as we
Korea.
got
Local
off the
media
plane,
maliciously
their
smeared
newspapers
us, published our
But the
photos.
headlines read,
Lucky
doesn't
Chinese
deserve to
team.
compete
They also
at
said
Worlds.
Liu
and had
Ruyan
no
had
real
only
skill
won
at
by
all.
luck. Began
Many
to
people
doubt
cursed
us
us too,
online.
saying we would definitely be
And
eliminated
embarrassed
in
in
the
China.
group told us to
And
withdraw
stop going
immediately.
abroad.
The atmosphere
To
inside
humiliate
the
the
younger
younger
teammates
teammates
started
started
losing confidence.
They made frequent mistakes
and could not
during
sleep at
training.
night.
Sighing all day
Liu
long.
Ruyan saw
and
it
felt
all. She
anxious
gathered everyone
inside.
looked
Together
into our eyes
and spoke with
It doesn't
absolute
matter
firmness.
what others
What
say
matters
about
is
us.
that we
We
believe
did not
in
get
ourselves.
here.
Of luck. We got here through day
As
after
long as
day
we work
of
together,
effort.
her
and
words
sweat
were like a shot
in
of
everyone's
adrenaline.
heart. The teammates pulled
and
themselves
threw
together.
themselves
Liu
back
Ruyan
into
slept
intense
only 4
training. She
hours
stayed
a day,
up late,
studying
analyzing their
opponents'
tactics
match
and
videos.
weaknesses.
Piled with
Her
empty
eyes
coffee
were
cans.
full of
Seeing
red
how
veins.
exhausted
My
she
heart
looked, I
ached
urged her to
terribly.
rest
She
for
shook
a
her
while.
head.
Once
It's
we
okay,
win the
big
World
brother.
Championship,
In the
I'll
group
rest
stage,
properly.
advanced to the quarterfinals.
In
as
the
first in our
quarterfinals,
group,
we defeated
in the
Europe's
semifinals,
powerhouse
America's
FNC
champion
and
team,
fought all the way
TL. Our
into the final.
opponent
In the final was Korea's
They were a
three-time
myth in
champion.
the
They had
esports
never
world.
lost a
They
world
possessed
final. Countless honors.
Before the
and
match
fans.
began,
SK's captain
said
Zhou
arrogantly
Zhaqian
Chinese
in an
teams
interview,
are no match
"We
for
will
us
easily
at
win
all,"
3-0
and
show
show
them what real
The match
esports
began.
is. SK truly
Their
lived
play
up to
style
its
was fierce
reputation.
and sharp.
Teamwork
We were
was
completely
flawless. Soon
suppressed.
we lost the,
The
first
score
2 games.
became
The
0-2.
Korean audience cheered,
Waving
celebrated.
Korean
They had
flags.
already begun celebrating
domestic
victory
live
comments were
streams.
full of
They
insults.
definitely
I said
lost.
long ago
This
they
is
weren't
so
good enough.
embarrassing.
Surrender
Stop
already. Wasting time.
The team voice chat was
Several
dead silent.
teammates showed despair on their
Aze even
faces,
through his
lowered
mouse.
his head, and
I
said,
played
"I'm
too
sorry."
badly going to lose.
Liu Ruyan's
Just
voice
then,
her voice
sounded,
was very
but
soft,
carried
unquestionable firmness.
Don't be afraid.
Big
I'll
brother,
carry you to
as
victory.
long as
There
Crystal
is still
still
hope.
the third game again.
Liu
Ruyan changed her previous
And
conservative
locked in
style.
the assassin
The whole
hero,
venue
a
burst
Kali thought
into
she
an
had gone
uproar.
crazy.
In such a crucial match,
Picking such an aggressive
simply
hero.
asking for
But
death.
Liu
Ruyan proved
The
herself
Kali
with
she
skill.
controlled was
Weaving
like a
through the
flash of
enemy
light.
she went
formation.
in and out
She
fearlessly,
precisely
as if
eliminated
no one
us
could
to
stop
take
her.
one
Cheers
game
in
back.
the venue
The Korean
quieted down a
audience
lot,
showed expressions
especially
of
on
their
their
faces.
Liu Ruyan's
Her
form got
mechanics
better and
flowed
better,
like water.
Again and
Almost
again,
divine.
she saved the
And
team
led
at
us to
critical
win the
moments.
score
Another
became
became 2-2. The
2-2.
whole arena
Everyone
was
was
silent.
stunned
No one had
that
expected.
we could drag the match into a
Even the
decisive
commentators
game.
were so
This
excited
is unbelievable.
they could barely
Starlight
speak.
has actually
They have
come
created
back from
a
zero
exciting
to
game.
both
Both
sides
sides played
to
with
not
extreme
extreme
caution.
caution.
The slightest mistake.
The economy was
Both
still
Baron
even.
and Dragon
Everyone's
were still
heart
alive.
was in their throat.
Just then, Team SK caught one of
and
our
started
mistakes.
a perfect team fight at the
Four
Baron
of us
pit.
were killed
Only Liu
instantly.
Ruyan
The
was
5
left.
enemies pushed with the Baron buff
all the
and
way
minion
to our
wave.
crystal.
Our crystal had only a sliver
It
of
looked
health
like it was
left.
about
The
to
Korean
explode.
audience in the arena
They
cheered
stood
up
again,
and waved their
shouting
flags. Team SK's
the
name
domestic
loudly.
live stream comments.
Everyone
fell
thought we had lost.
completely
But right
silent.
then,
A
Liu
miracle
Ruyan
happened
controlled her
and
hero.
rushed out of the
She
fountain.
fought 5
Her
enemies
fingers
alone.
struck the keyboard at
making a
incredible
rapid
speed.
clattering
Her
sound.
skill casts were
With a beautiful
unbelievably
key
precise.
killed the enemy's low health
Then,
support.
with
She
an
dashed
E
to the
skill
enemy
and
ADC
took him
side.
down with
Then
the
she
full combo.
activated
The
the
ultimate
enemy
jungler
jungler's skill.
the
Before the
jungler
top
in return.
laner and mid
She
laner
killed
could
them
react
one
with
by
a
one.
beautiful pentakill.
The
She
entire
wiped out
venue
the
fell
enemy
silent.
hear a Instantly,
thunderous applause
the
and
domestic
screams
live stream
erupted.
comments
Holy
exploded
crap!
in an instant.
Pentakill!
Is this the
Liu
strength
Ruyan
of
is
the solo
insane.
Q
Too
King?
hype.
Liu
I'm
Ruyan did
crying.
not
She
pause.
pushed the minion wave all the way to
As
the
the
enemy
crystal
crystal.
exploded,
ended.
we won.
We completed
We
a reverse
defeated the
sweep
arrogant
from
and
0 to
won
8.
all the
Chinese
Chinese
spectators in the
waving
venue
the
stood up
five-star
and
red
shouting
flag.
Liu Ruyan's
Liu
name.
Ruyan! Liu
Liu
Ruyan,
Ruyan.
echoing through the
The
entire
fire
arena,
deafening.
turned
Her head
to look at
set.
me.
Her face was covered in
Her
sweat.
wet hair stuck to her
but her
face.
eyes shone
She
like
smiled
stars,
at me.
brilliant beyond
At that
words.
moment,
The light of the whole world seemed to
I
gather
looked
on
at
her.
her.
Tears fell before
At
I
the
knew
award
it.
ceremony,
The majestic national anthem
the five-star
ran through
red
the
flag
steel
arose
arena
heavyweight
slowly.
championship
She stood on
trophy,
the highest
looked
podium,
at the
countless
and
camera
her
flashes
clear voice
below
spread through
I
the
want to
entire
thank one
venue.
person. He gave me half a bottle
And
of
pulled me
ice-cold
out of
Coke,
darkness,
taught me to
taught me
speak,
to play
and
games,
taught me how
he
to
is
be a
the
person.
light of
Without
my
him,
life.
there would be no
After
Liu
saying
Ruyan
that,
today.
she lifted
and
the heavy
waved
trophy.
hard in my
All
direction.
eyes in the venue focused
I
on
looked
me.
at the shining girl on stage,
and my
tears finally poured out
At the post-match
uncontrollably.
press
Reporters
conference,
from all over the world
countless
packed the
microphones
room,
and cameras
a
pointed
reporter
at
asked,
Liu Ruyan.
Player Liu
All the
Ruyan.
professional teams offered huge
Why did you
prizes
choose
to
Team
recruit
Starlight
you?
instead?
Ruyan looked
Her
at
eyes
me.
so gentle.
Because the captain
They seemed to
gave
be
me half a
dripping
bottle of
warmth.
Coke.
From
From
that
that
moment
I
decided
on,
I would only be his
that
support
would never
for the
change.
rest
After
of my
the
life.
press
I held
conference
Liu
ended,
Ruyan's hand and walked
the
along the
evening
streets of
breeze
Seoul,
carried gently,
the neon lights by the
and
road
reflected
flickered
on
on her
making her
face.
look
She
as
leaned on
beautiful
my
as a
shoulder and
painting.
whispered,
We did
Big
it.
brother.
We won the world
I
championship.
lowered my head, placed a gentle kiss on her
We
forehead.
did it.
This
In the
is
future,
only the
we
beginning.
will win
After
even more
returning to
championships.
China,
Our team
countless
became
endorsements
national
and
idols
ads
into a
came to
spacious,
us
bright
with the
training
best
base.
equipment and
Our
coaches.
careers flourished.
But the relationship between Liu Ruyan and me
She was
never
still the
changed.
little girl
Only willing
who
to
followed
be my
behind me,
and I was still the
exclusive
little
support.
boy who picked up a little wife
On a
in
sunny
the
internet
afternoon.
cafe
I took
at the
Liu
age of
Ruyan
5
back
to that original
the cafe
internet
had been
cafe.
renovated.
It had become clean
in the corner
and
of the
bright.
internet cafe
To
to
form
form
a
a
giant
giant
hall.
1,000
Liu Ruyan
bottles
stood
of
in the
covering
center
her
of
of
the
a held a
surprise,
diamond
got
ring
down on one knee in
and
front
said,
of her.
Ruyan, when we were 5,
From then
I give you
on,
half a
you
bottle
now
of
my
Coke. I
heart.
want to give
I
you
want to
my
buy a
whole
Coke
life.
every day.
Play games with you
and
every
hold
day.
your hand
every day
Will you
until
marry
we
me?
grow
Ruyan
old.
looked at
Her
me.
eyes full of tears.
She nodded
Her
hard.
voice choked as she
I
said,
am willing
I
to be
do.
your
I will
support
follow
for
you
the
for
rest of my
life.
life.
And held her
tightly.
Sunlight poured
and
through
fell
the
on
window.
us.
Warm and beautiful.
It turned out
that the
began
best
with
half a
love
bottle of Coke when we
and
were
took a
5
lifetime
to fulfill that first promise.
Once the promise
Not
is
even
made,
10,000
good night.
mountains can stop it.